New year, new promises to my self-improvement to break, and also new calendar! Hello, welcome to Nerdy and Quirky. Here's some cool history. So first things first, there are a lot of calendars out there. Some of them are still in use today for social or religious reasons. There's the Chinese calendar, the Egyptian calendar, the Hebrew calendar, and the Islamic calendar. But the one you're probably most familiar with is the modern calendar. So where did that one come from? First, let's talk calendars in general. They owe their existence simply to the fact that they are useful. They allow us to track repeat events from birthdays to religious celebrations to knowing when your local river is going to flood. So for humanity, knowing the date is just really useful. Now, almost all calendars can be split into two types: solar and lunar. Solar calendars arose where seasons were more pronounced, basically because it's a good idea to know when
winter is coming.
Lunar calendars came where climates were more moderate, and people found that the easiest way to keep time was through that Death Star in the sky that conveniently reset itself about every month. That's actually why the oldest calendars are lunar, since the oldest civilizations formed around the equator. But remember, a lunar month isn't exactly a month, so civilizations using a lunar calendar would occasionally find themselves off-season. They would fix this by adding another month, just because. Yeah, if you thought time was a construct now, it was just being constructed then. Now this additional month occurred 7 times every 19 years, which kept the average lunar month to be about 29.5 days, but I hate to day it, but year a little off. So every 19 years, the lunar calendar would still end up being a little less than a week behind the solar. Now, one formative civilization to break the lunar chain was the Egyptians. Despite the warm climates, they used a solar calendar to track the flood of the Nile. Using the stars, specifically Sirius, they were able to calculate the length of a year to be 365.25 days. And they rounded down because, like me, the Egyptians knew that they were making the wrong choice in the long run, but it was too much effort to figure out how to deal with that 25th of a day, so YOLO. This meant that only once out of every 1,460 years did they actually get the calendar right. But either way, they were still more accurate than lunar calendars. Speaking of which, the Romans. If you have ever wondered why humanity does an objectively weird thing, you can usually blame the Romans. Calendars are no exception. So the Romans started off with a lunar calendar. Now there's some debate to what the first Roman calendar looked like, because there was one created by an actual person, NUMA Pompilius, and one created by the probably fictional founder of Rome, Romulus. Now, some historians believe that the Romulan calendar predates the Numan calendar, and others say it just didn't exist, which I really hope is true because it is stupid. Like, it doesn't even try to be a good calendar. You see, it starts in March, or Martius, named after Romulus's dad, Mars. Then came Aprilis, from the word open, as in the earth is opening itself up to seeds. Then Maius for growth, and then Junius for reasons I don't know. Then all of those creative names were used up, so then they just went with numbers. Quintilis, Sextilis, September, October, November, December, ring a bell! Now that's where we got most of our month names, but notice it stops at 10. The Romulan year was 10 months long. Now this was weird because most other civilizations used 12 months, so they must have made the months longer, right? No, they were still just about 30 days each, meaning the Romulan year was 304 days long. That's it. Mind you, they knew that a year was longer, they just stopped counting after December ended, and then started back up on March 1st with the new moon before the spring equinox. And that is why I think that calendar is dumb. So let's talk about NUMA Pompilius, the second king of Rome. The Romans thought the gods loved odd numbers, so NUMA took a day away from all of the months with 30 days. But he still wanted the year to cover 12 lunar cycles, and a day because odd numbers, so that meant 355 days. So with all of those extra days, he just made 2 extra months, January and February. Now I know it's weird because we're used to considering February to be near the start of the year, but to the Romans, who started their year on March 1st, February was dead last, with the last day of the year being the celebration of Terminalia, which was on the 23rd. February has 28 days. So not only was the Numan calendar 1.25 days off the solar calendar, they also just had a few days of dead weight because they didn't want to move a frickin' festival. Now to solve this problem, they just did as the Romans do, and every other year they just added an extra 27-day month called Intercalaris or Mercedonius. Now that should have been a solid good enough. Except, as usual, politicians ruin everything. The Roman high priest would add that month or forget it to keep allies in office for longer or cut enemies short. If there was a war or some other distraction, that month could be forgotten for years. So by the time Julius Caesar came into power about half a millennium later, the Numan calendar was fucked. It needed to be regulated so politics couldn't literally destroy time, and Julius spent a lot of time in Egypt, and basically just used their calendar, except actually accounted for that 25th of a day every year. So the usual year had 365 days, except every fourth year there would be an extra day in February, giving it 29 days.
Every 4 years, you get a magical extra day. A day to do the things you ordinarily wouldn't do, to take chances.
Now, a fun little abstraction from this is that he didn't actually add February 29th. He added February 24th because it went after the last day of the year, February 23rd. But there couldn't be two February 24th, so the remaining 5 days in February just scooched over one day, which is really useless, but a cool concept. You know, just throw out that fact next leap year when people are like, happy leap year, and you're like, no, it was actually on the 24th, you silly Bill. I have no friends. And to thank Julius for all of his hard work, the Romans named his birth month after him, and the month after Augustus. But finally, we had a calendar that worked, perfectly in sync with the sun. Nope. No, it isn't, because a year is not actually 365.25 days long or 365 and 6 hours. It is actually 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds, which means that, yes, there is still work to be done. Over 1,000 years later, in the 1500s, that 11-minute and 14-second delay had created about a 10-day discrepancy, which meant that the church was missing the spring equinox, which meant missing Easter, which is really bad for the church. Easter's kind of a big day. Jesus, back at it again with the sin forgiving. So Pope Gregory XIII was like, no. Gotta fix this. Or technically, he got Christopher Clavius to fix it with a simple solution. Any year ending with 00 will only be a leap year if it is divisible by 400. And boom! Problem solved. Another problem though, because of course there's another problem, this solution wasn't accepted worldwide at the same time, since a lot of countries weren't a big fan of the church. The Protestant UK only introduced the Gregorian calendar in 1752 by cutting 1750 and 1751 a few days short, which resulted in some people like Sir Isaac Newton and George Washington to have 2 birthdays. And Russia only accepted the change in 1917, a delay which caused them to arrive 12 days late to the 1908 Olympics. But after that, everything was on schedule. Except the Earth's rotation isn't perfect, meaning every once in a while we just get an extra second in the year. But screw it, I'm done. That's it. That's the history of the calendar. Now, what about you guys? What is your favorite day in the year? Is it your birthday, someone else's, an anniversary, a holiday? Tell me down below. For me, it is April 25th. Bonus points if you know why. If you found this video interesting or you just want to support cool history, liking and sharing would help me out so much. But either way, have a lovely day. Since the oldest civilizations formed around the equator. Crime, can you stop happening, please? Thank you.